You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum.
Welcome into the Sports Objective Podcast, our 50 Pirates in 50 Days, and Bubba, one of our favorites, is back with us.
Absolutely. A great family friend of mine over the last 15 years or so. Quarterback the Pirates in 70 and 71 in the Mike McGee and first year of the Sonny Randle area. John Casazza. John, welcome into the show.
Well, thank you, Bubba. I appreciate you all having me.
We wanted to have you back. I tell you, you were I love the fact, I know Bubba can say this too, we love the fact that not only are you a great player at East Carolina, but you've done an excellent job, I know, in the Triad and Greensboro area. We can talk about that. But for people that maybe missed the interview last year for the Nostalgia Party, can you talk about how you what was your journey to East Carolina?
Well, I'm originally from New Jersey, and I went to Chowan, which was a junior college at that time, and spent 2 football seasons there and didn't stay there after that semester of my second football season, and went to ECU, got recruited by Jerry McGee, and got there, in the winter months, actually, and was working out there. Mike McGee carried me out there. Burroughs Welcome out there, and Greenville were building it, and I don't know what I was, a rod buster's helper, or I was just a helper. And anyway, until football season started, and so I got there a little early, but I loved every bit of those 2 years.
Let's take it back a step. How does a kid from Jersey end up in Murfreesboro, North Carolina, at Chowan College?
It was kind of a shock. A lot of things, food and and the accent. I really enjoyed the Southern accent. I still do. Of course, I've been down here most of my life, but of course, my wife's from the capital of the Confederacy, Richmond. So, I get used to those accents. But I remember first hot dog hamburger place they had there in Murfreesboro, a little one, and I went and I said, I'd like to have a hot dog. And she said, all the way? And I said, no, bring it halfway and throw it the rest.
I've heard a lot of people that aren't from East Carolina don't know what all the way means. That always cracks me up.
Well, it's the works where I'm from, no sauerkraut either.
Yeah, I know. What did you think when you said, yeah, all the way, and she brought it to you with chili, mustard, coleslaw, and chopped onions?
I don't know what I was looking at, probably, It's a little different for me than the boardwalks in Jersey,
Yeah.
But that was the journey from, Chowan and then to ECU, and he brought in a number of us because of the transition.
Right.
Yeah, so after arriving onto the scene prior to that 1970 season, and like you said, Coach McGee was coming in. So talk about the offense that he was attempting to implement.
Well, Coach Stasevich was running the single wing for a long time. So here comes me, the first quarterback in 16 years, or seasons, however you would like. And we're going to install the split back veer and the multiple eye. And that was the 2 things that we worked on. Of course, the split back veer is something that you should really work on exclusively. But the multiple eye was for us to throw the ball, particularly. We did out of the split back veer some, but there's a lot of repetition on things that you have to read and do things correctly. And it was pretty tough initially for me. But the guys caught on next year. We got much, much better with it.
So in that 70 season, I know, John, one of your top targets was Dick Carrata. He was, a senior that season. And he was the guy that we're going to be talking to down the road. And he was actually a 2-sport athlete. He was a 4-year starter at shortstop for the Pirates as well.
Yes, he's a very good athlete. Great hands, Hall of Famer. I remember one particular game, and I wasn't initially happy with it. We were playing Southern Illinois, and it was homecoming. And I think Coach McGee had a philosophy for that particular game, and that the quarterback was going to run the ball. And Jack Patterson was the backup quarterback then, who wound up playing safety the next year. But they put Jack in. He's a great guy. I love Jack. And, I didn't start that game. And we didn't do much initially, early. And then I think at the end of the second quarter, I went in, and the reception record for a game that held up for about 20 years is broke now, of course. We had to throw the ball all over the place. But I only wish I would have played the whole game, because I had a good game rolling in there. He caught 14 passes off me, just him, mostly in the second half. But he was something else. If it was high, low, he needed to scoop it. He was good at it.
Yeah, that record that you're referring to, the 14 receptions in a game, that actually held up to 2012. So
wow.
So that is pretty impressive, because, like you said, there were a lot of years through the 80s where we didn't throw the ball a whole lot, but in the 90s, relatively speaking, under Coach Logan, we threw the ball a good bit. So it's pretty remarkable that held up.
Yeah, and I often wonder, what if I would have started the whole game and we came out and threw the ball? He might have had 20 receptions. We talk about it now, but anyway, or we might not throw the ball at all. Who knows? But I often wonder.
And I know the ground attack in that 70 season was led by Billy Wallace. He ran for a little over 900 yards and 8 scores. So can you talk a little bit about Billy?
Yeah, Billy. You look at Billy. He looked about 185 pounds, but he's one of them guys that was like 205 and tough as nails. And when we got in the eye, of course, he was the fullback, and we would counter trap with him. And of course, he when we were in split back veer, he split with either George Whitley. That was 70. Of course, no, we didn't do that much. In 70, he would with Les Strayhorn, who went into the NFL for about 4 or 5 years, and Carl Lester. But Bill was tough. He was right from Greenville there, and he was a hard guy. I remember one time he got hit so hard, and I, you just kind of, and he's slow getting up, and of course he went to their huddle, and I had to go get him. and he just kept on playing. I said, "You all right?" He said, "Yeah." Love Billy.
In that 70 season, after a rough start of the season, you guys finished strong, winning 3 out of the last 4, I think it was. And unfortunately, probably the most memorable thing about that season was hands down what took place in mid-November when we talked a little about it with you last summer. And that's, of course, the horrific plane crash and the Marshall team suffered on the way back to Huntington.
Yeah, that was not a good time, and like I said, I told you guys, it still sticks with me, and it was a horrible thing. I can't even tell you how I reacted. I mean, chills ran through me when I first heard it, and I just pictured the guys that I was, had my arms around and talking to after the ball game and everything, and it's just so hard. It was so hard for me to. Terrible tragedy, and that's something I'll probably have to live with till I leave the planet, I reckon.
Yeah, I remember last year, being the competitor that you are, John, the fact that you said that the only problem with that day was the fact that you wished that you had lost the game, and for a competitor to say that, it says a lot about you as a person. Well,
only because... at least there would have been some joy prior to the worst tragedy that I've been a part of. They're in the airplane, excited. They'd won the ball game, away game. The game itself, scores and things, those things are kind of immaterial. When it comes to just young folks and that tragedy, and the reason I say that is for that.
I totally understood where you're coming from with that, and I hope that I would have felt the same way. I know I've talked to others who were your teammates back then, and they certainly agreed with you. So I can't imagine 2 weeks later that was not the final game of the season. You guys actually played Davidson on November 28th, so that had to be very hard to go out and play a football game 2 weeks after something like that had occurred.
Yeah, it was real tough, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it affected a lot of guys like it did me for some reason. I spent a lot of time talking to their quarterback because he was from Jersey, Shoebridge, and and it just sticks. It's to this day. But Davidson, we came out slow. It was homecoming. I guess we were as bad as the season was going. I guess we were expected to. Oh wait a minute, I might have the wrong Davidson game. Davidson was 71. Who do we play after that? Was West Virginia, I thought, but maybe not. Oh, it was 71. You're right, Davidson. I'm sorry. I'm getting old, guys. I'm so old they didn't have history when I was in high school. Everything's current. But anyway, yeah, we came out and we had a push and scored right at the end there. I threw a touchdown to Tim Dameron, another great receiver, and we beat him 27-26. But I guess our minds were at a different place perhaps for a while. And
then in 1971, obviously you had Coach Sonny Randle coming in after Mike McGee had left to go to his alma mater, Duke. And I know in 71, you really had Carl Lester Crumpler Sr. exploding onto the scene. He was a very highly regarded recruit out of nearby Wilson, and I guess it was Wilson Fike High School, and he was getting recruited by the likes of Southern Cal and everyone.
Well, what probably got him here is we had three of them come from the high school. Coach Trevathan, him, and Ronnie Barnes. And Ronnie's been, the head of, what is it?
The athletic trainer with the
athletic trainer
with the New York Giants.
Yeah, and he was just a young kid, but he hustled around, and all three of them came in together, So I guess we kind of drained the Wilson High School up there, but I'm glad we did. Yeah, 6'5", run like a deer. And that was his sophomore year. He got a lot better after I graduated my senior. Of course, he had two great years after that. He switched with Strayhorn back and forth my senior year.
Right. And one of the big highlights of that 71 season was late October, October 23rd to be exact. It was the second time we'd ever played NC State, and you guys went up to Carter Finley. I guess maybe at that time it was just Carter Stadium, and defeated the Wolfpack 31-15. So give us an idea of what the atmosphere was like in that game in the very early stages of that heated rivalry.
Well, what we did was we established the veer against them better than anyone we had that year. They had a tough time stopping Billy Wallace in the outside veer and the inside trap off of that. So we moved the ball. Billy had a pretty good night. I mean, 100 yards, 100-plus yards rushing. We threw the ball conservatively but pretty good. I threw a touchdown to Carl Gordon, who unfortunately years and years ago another tragedy, got killed in a hot air balloon accident. But anyway, so we held the ball and moved it pretty good, and kept them off the football field, and pretty good whooping, I thought. And boy, we were real excited, not just us but all of Greenville. We got there back 3 a.m. in the bus downtown, and it was blocked off, and they're all down there, and what a great atmosphere. Everybody hanging their heads out of the bus, and, big for East Carolina.
I can only imagine, because I can, nobody outside of yourselves and probably a lot of the Pirate fans anticipated us winning that ball game.
Probably not. You know, back then, you know, you're playing an ACC team, you know, NC State, and you know, probably above the Southern Conference at that point for sure. And yeah, very big win.
And so, John, after your 2 years with the Pirates, tell folks what took place in your life. I know you continued to play some football, and then after that got into coaching. So if you would, talk a little bit about those things.
Well, that's how I got to Greensboro here. It was what they called the North Carolina Professional Football. Well, I didn't know they called it the North Carolina Professional Football League, but we played a couple teams from South Carolina and even two from Georgia, and it played at the old what's the darn stadium here? The old stadium in Greensboro.
When they play the East-West All-Star game. They're at Grimsley
War Memorial. No, War Memorial.
Okay, War Memorial. Okay.
War Memorial. That's where we played, and actually wound up having a real good football team and won the whole thing, and played what they call a mini Super Bowl in South Carolina against a team from Columbia. I think they won that area, and we beat them too. And then the owner, who was also a little All-American Pirate, Lou Hallow, back in the late 50s or so, he had the team, and he was actually coaching it too. And he said they didn't make money and it dissolved, whatever. But got me in this area, which I love, and I wound up coaching and teaching for a total of about 37 years, and was athletic director also, and loved every minute of it. It wasn't like a job to me. I just, just teaching kids character and trying to prepare them for when they leave high school, or the athletes, getting them into any college that you're capable of doing so, or saving one kid, I'm back, I mean, that was my whole philosophy, particularly in school. I spent 32 years at. We had kids, we had 3.5 projects, more than anybody in Guilford County, and we had a lot of kids that, you put your arm around, and, and you got them to look you in the eyes. And when you did that, then, that they knew you cared, and you were able to help them. And like I said, it wasn't a job. I got up anxious every morning.
So you were actually here in the last few years, maybe.
You were talking about you were talking about the high school coaching and certainly being an athletic director. Can you talk about the changes you saw from the time that you started as a coach to the time you retired, as far as the football and just the sports, North Carolina High School Athletic Association, stuff like that, from the time you started to the retirement?
Well, the only thing you can predict is change. You know that, and sometimes, and particularly today, it's generally not for the good. And, one big reason I think that high schools, are not getting that character building in some schools and helping kids like they should, is they don't have coaches that are in the high school. The average is maybe 2. We had every coach in the school when I started, and for a number of years. And that's when you get an opportunity to put your arm around a kid, or a teacher comes to you and he's not doing well, you're there, and you talk to him and you get him straight. And that's one thing that I don't understand. Why aren't your coaches teachers and within the school? And I don't know, the kids, just not getting kids interested like we did years ago. I mean, you never want to have to cut people, but we never did. We always found a way, but we had more and more kids than you ever needed. Now, a lot of high schoolers around here struggle with numbers. So, I don't know what that's coming from. Youth football still happening and everything, but they get to a certain point between that and high school, and a lot of them get lost in that junior high. So I see a difference there. And the high school's connecting with the junior high and feeder schools. Other than that, that's about all I see. Maybe some better equipment.
What about the safety of the game? Is there? I don't mind. Obviously, I want the safety without compromising the game, of like talking about taking away kickoffs and different things like that, which I'm not in favor of.
Well, you see what's happening, and particularly, at the NFL level. I mean, it's almost ridiculous. The quarterback, you can't touch him, and there's actually athletes that get hurt trying to avoid not falling on the quarterback and turning.
Yeah.
Which I had one that played for me at High Point Andrews, and he's in the NFL, and he missed the rest of the season doing so. So William Hayes, and he messed his knee up. So, I mean, when you're tackling somebody, that's an aggressive move. You teach them how to tackle stuff, but I got to put my head here. I got to do this. I can't grab that. I can't hit this. That's not football anymore. Give them some flags. I don't know. It's slowly changing the game. I don't know if it's in a good direction, to be honest with you.
No, I totally agree. It's out of control, in my opinion. I think if you see a guy that comes in maliciously, like where it's obvious he's spearing someone, then yes. But I mean, the game's so fast, and you played it and coached it, as did I, and it's just some of these things they're unavoidable. Even though you're trying to use good technique.
Yeah. And, the first thing in mind is to protect the kids, and you don't want them to get hurt. But, where it starts is, tackle technique, and I hope they still teach it, but a lot of schools, they just kind of ignore it, as a fundamental. But, the wrinkle in the neck and look up through his chin into his eyes. But you can't do that no more. So, I don't know. It's a whole new technique about the changes.
What's been done to improve helmets? Obviously, to me, that seems like a good place to start in terms of concussions, is to get safer helmets.
Oh, no question. Back when I played, there was no concussion protocol or anything. You had your bell rung. Put a little smelling salts under your nose, and you maybe miss a series. And then I explained to my wife, now you understand what's wrong with me today, okay? But and as you talk about helmets, I'm looking at my helmet, which I still have, and it's the old suspension helmet with the dome. So they've come a long way, really, to be honest with you.
John, what do you think about, you've been around a lot of coaches at East Carolina after your time and following the program. What do you think about Coach Mike Houston now taking over and hopefully righting the ship?
Well, he's got me excited. I think he's great. I've heard him talk. I met him, and I think he's going to do an excellent job. I think we all, as Pirates, need to be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. And, if there's going to be some change, you'll see it happen in a slow progression. But he's a good one. He's changed every program. He's won where he's been all the time. And I'm just excited.
Yeah, and he's getting back to practicing. You talk about the way people tackling techniques and the way guys practice. Mike Houston's all about being as physical as possible as you can in 2019 in practice.
Well, that's another thing. They don't hit. They don't tackle. I remember even through my high school coaching, when I wasn't a head coach, I remember Herb Goins, great guy. He was the head coach, and he said, Coach, I had the secondary, and he'd say, Coach, you're hitting 3 days in a row. We hit Tuesday and half the time, fundamentals. I said, Coach, I got the secondary, ain't no third dury. All right. I said, we're gonna start, with proper technique, and we're gonna grab and rip and grab, and he's gonna be naked if he gets away from us, and we're gonna work on that. And he kind of understood, I guess, but yeah, very important tackling techniques anyway.
John, I'll tell you what, we're very fired up for August 31st. You were talking about earlier in the interview about that NC State game. You feel a lot. I hope you feel a lot better about the game this year than last year, right?
Oh my God! What really bothers me about that game is I think, and that's another thing that Coach Houston is going to have to deal with, and he explained that in something I've seen on the Facebook. But it's you going out there and you're giving it everything you got all the time, regardless. And that game, we just quit. We didn't play at all. It was just like, oh, we're done, and it was embarrassing. But anyway, that was a problem there. I don't think it's going to be the problem in the opening ball game.
And that was pretty much the problem, as he alluded to yesterday in the first fall practice, the very fact of guys tapping out, guys, going through the motions through 6 plays. Why not go hard 3 plays, 4 plays, and then we'll substitute a guy in. But if you're just kind of going through the motions, no reason for them to even be on the team, in my opinion.
Well, that's what he has to get him out of. That's something that's probably happening, and they're used to doing that instead of giving it everything all the time. And I think he's going to instill that.
John, thank you for coming on with us, man. We appreciate it. You all-time Pirate right here, played in that Marshall game, and you've seen a lot, done a lot, and thanks for coming on with us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I certainly do appreciate it, and you guys have a good weekend.
All right,
you too. Thank you so much, John. Honored to have you back on.
Okay.
Appreciate
Take care.
it, John.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!